welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the once again that was unexpected and I enjoyed it edition. Today is episode 238. Shark sounds have been recorded for the first time, and the iguanas of Fiji came from North America in an epic voyage. My friends, if you went to pre-K or kindergarten in the States, then you should know that Old MacDonald had a farm. And on his farm, he had some cows. And those cows made a moo here and a moo there. Everywhere was a fucking moo. Of course, I'm referring to the Old MacDonald Had a Farm song, a popular children's nursery rhyme that, I shit you not, is thought to have originated from an English opera. Yes, an opera back in 1706, written by Thomas D'Urfey. That opera was called In the Fields in Frost and Snow, and believe it or not, it was a flop. This one song, however, gained popularity and evolved into the folk ditty we teach children today. Now, if you reach into the way back of your own childhood, you may recall that other than cows, there were chickens and pigs and all your standard farm animals, but no shark was to be had. I mean, if someone asked you what sound a shark makes, you'd respond with an equal amount of silence and a facial expression that says, "What the fuck are you talking about, buddy? They don't make anything." Well, I am so goddamn thrilled to tell you that today, that's going to change. I am formally adding sharks to the nursery rhyme, and I could do so thanks to researchers at the wonderfully named Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. It was here postdoctoral investigator Carolyn Nider made an accidental discovery while handling painfully adorable New Zealand rig sharks. They were making distinct noises at the beginning of the experiment, and then eventually these noises stopped as the experiment went on. Now, this may sound like no big deal, no pun intended, but it very much was. Elismabranch is a fancy word for the family of cartilaginous fish that includes sharks, and they are not known to possess any specialized sound-making physical features, and thus not known to make any sounds. Well, like I said, that is going to change, and I'm excited about it. We will meet the team and the rig sharks that just added a new verse to Old MacDonald. We will join Carolyn on that fateful day when she heard those sharks chatter, and we will get into the new experiment that proved that these sharks do make noise. And we will listen to them. And not to spoil anything, it's really cute. Then after the break, we are leaving New Zealand for Fiji, and for sharks, for the aptly named Fijian crested iguana, a critically endangered species native to some of the northwestern islands of the archipelago. Now, for my fellow geographically challenged Americans, Fiji is about 1,100 nautical miles north of New Zealand, and its closest neighbors aren't much closer, with Samoa 622 nautical miles to the northeast, and Tonga 487 nautical miles to the southeast. The question as to how in the hell iguanas got here hasn't really been answered. Biologists had conveniently proposed that Fijian iguanas may have descended from an older lineage that was more widespread around the Pacific, but has since died out, and oh my gosh, look at the time, there's no way to prove it. Well, thanks to a new analysis conducted by Hot for Iguana researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of San Francisco, we finally have an answer, and it's simultaneously blowing people's minds and records. We will get into this analysis, we will discover the Fijian crested iguana's closest relative, and we will go over the theories as to how millions of years ago this land creature took to the sea to call paradise home. It's all so awesome, and by the way, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my highly adorned business goose. To begin, I'm going to ask you to slip into your most flattering wetsuit and to glide past me into our time machine. We're dialing it back just a smidge to a year we all like to ignore, 2021. It was at this time marine biologist, doctor of philosophy, and postdoctoral investigator Carolyn Nider landed the opportunity of a lifetime for someone who clearly doesn't like to relax and has a thing for bioacoustics, neurobiology, and coral reef ecology. For you see, after securing a role at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, quote, the world's premier independent organization dedicated exclusively to ocean research, technology and education, end quote, as stated on their site, whoi.edu, this led to a lab gig on the other side of the world. From the Cape of Massachusetts to where Old Woods Hole is based, she'd be traveling to Lee Marine Laboratory in drop-dead gorgeous New Zealand. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who may be wondering where this is and why she traveled so far, I've got you. Please imagine a semicolon. Thank you. Now, these are the two islands of New Zealand, and if you would, please point to the dot, okay, and move your finger all the way north until you nearly reach the coast. Voila, there's the lab. And it was here she literally got to handle one of the cutest goddamn sharks you're ever gonna see. So please, drop whatever hideous creature you're holding right now and pick up your phone. Head on over to today's post on the old social medias and behold the adorableness of a baby New Zealand rig shark. I'll give you a sec. Okay, did you not implode? Yeah, that is a young rig shark. It's so small, it could fit curled up in the palm of your hand, as seen here. And while we're here, let's learn a little bit about them because their size and physical features do play a role in the new discovery we're about to handle ourselves. According to niwa.co.nz, rigs also go by other names that are equally adorable, like lemonfish and the spotted dogfish. These nicknames are thanks to their bronze or gray coloring at the top of their bodies and small white spots running along the lateral line. They also have a white belly that you just want to give rubs, but please don't because they're still sharks. Which brings me to their mouths. Quote, they have flattened teeth arranged like paving stones to form grating plates and feed mainly on animals that burrow in the sea floor, especially crabs. End quote. Well, with this, I'd like you to do two things. Put a pin in it and head back to the socials because I've got a close-up of these teeth and their gnarly arrangement. Now, if you're too busy chewing on a crab yourself, I can describe them for you. All you have to do is imagine a pair of jaws that each have a thickness of a garden hose. And every inch of that hose is covered in rows of oval teeth, with the upper jaw numbering 28 teeth, and the bottom anywhere from 22 to 24 teeth. Now, for comparison, we adult humans have 32 in total. That's it. So, these teeth aren't fucking around, but damn it. If not friend, why so friend-shaped? As these cuties grow to 49 to 59 inches. That's it. That is small for sharks. Other species, for example, clock in at 6 feet, and others up to 30. So this is a size researchers can study in a lab. Researchers like Carolyn, who back in 2021 had quite the experience with them. Quote, I used behavioral training experiments combining food and sound, which also included some handling. During these experiments, I happened to notice that one of the shark species made a clicking noise when being handled underwater. At first, we thought it might be a strange artifact. However, with time, as the animals got used to the daily experimental protocol, they then stopped making the clicks altogether, as if they got used to being in captivity and the experimental routine. This led us to consider that maybe we're observing a sound-making behavior rather than a strange artifact. I was very surprised, as I was under the assumption that sharks don't make sounds. She said in an interview with Michelle Starr of ScienceAlert.com and Rachel Funnell of IFL Science. So yes, my friends, as mentioned at the top of the show, marine biologists had no evidence of cartilaginous fish, like the rig and other sharks and rays, being capable of making intentional sounds. Vertebrates of the ocean were known to be the loudmouths, as more than 1,000 species of bony fish grunt, moan, and even bark by flexing muscles around their swim bladders or grinding their teeth, which you should put another pointy pin in, by the way. what scant evidence was had about rigs making noise were anecdotal reports from fishermen of clicking sounds. And of course, now Carolyn's story. Her postdoctoral wheels began to turn, and the thought crossed her mind, maybe, just maybe, this is something that should be seriously looked into. Do sharks have the ability to deliberately make noise? And because the universe is funny like that, it turns out other marine biologists located in completely different parts of the world were thinking the same thing around the same time. Not about rigs, but rays. As reported by Claire Watson of Science Alert, quote, "Stingrays are no longer the silent residents of the sea scientists once thought them to be. Caught on camera, 2 different stingray species have been discovered making weird clicking sounds in a lucky discovery that has delighted marine ecologists, but also left them stumped. That we only just realized that these commonly encountered stingrays are making sounds demonstrates once again how little we know about the oceans. We now have multiple recordings and observations of 2 species of stingrays making sounds in the wild, thanks to a few avid naturalists," said marine ecologist Lachlan Fetterplace of the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, who led the study. The article goes on to note that 2 mangrove whiprays and 1 cowtail stingray were observed by divers who captured them making weird sounds, which likely serves as like a warning or defense signal. And I've got it right here. My friends, for the first time ever, the sounds of stingrays, specifically that of the mangrove whipray. All right, here we go. Absolutely riveting. That was riveting stuff, and my mistake, that was both species of ray there. Both rays are actually just trying to mind their own business as they are gliding away from the reef, but the camera continues to follow. As such, I'm translating that knocking noise to just fuck off. Anyway, researchers, though, aren't quite sure what those clicks could mean, and it's still not quite known even how they're speaking, if you will. As co-author and marine scientist Joni Pinney Fitzsimmons of Macquarie University explained to Science Alert, quote, "We can't be certain of how the rays are producing the sounds, but it appears to involve a rapid movement of the head or jaw and the spiracles, an opening behind the eyes used for respiration." End quote. Well, my friends, stingrays make a sound, and you could add them to Old MacDonald's farm. When Carolyn heard this news, she realized that there may be a whole area of elasmobranch communication that we simply didn't know existed. It was time to add New Zealand rigs to this new list of sea creatures that might know how to chat. So, join me, will you, back at Lee Marine Laboratory between May of 2021 and April 2022, when she and her Hot for Rigs team obtained 10 juvenile rigs, 5 males and 5 females, all between the scant size of 22 and 32 inches in length. According to their paper, simply titled "Evidence of Active Sound Production by a Shark," 7 of the rigs were caught in Kaipara Harbor, off New Zealand's North Island, and a further 3 rigs were obtained from local commercial fishermen who were also using baited hooks. The animals were housed at the Lee Marine Laboratory in circular flow-through holding tanks, supplied with filtered flow-through ambient seawater, and they were maintained on a mixed diet of squid and fish, fed 3 times a week. It's not bad. It's basically a spa, so please sign me up. As for the experiment, a microphone was placed 30 centimeters below the water's surface to record what took place as the rigs were being handled for 20 seconds. So, what did the team find? Drum roll, please. Thank you in the back. Quote, the sharks made short, high-frequency clicks, averaging about 48 milliseconds per click, with a mean peak frequency between 2.4 and 18.5 kilohertz at a volume up to 166 decibels, on par with a handgun or firecracker. End quote from Michelle Starr of Science Alert. So my friends, old MacDonald had a farm, and on his farm he had some sharks. E-I-E-I-O, with a bang bang here and a bang bang there. Let's have a listen, shall we? All right, here we go. I'll play the file twice, and in the meantime, I'd like you to think about how this sound could be made. All right, so please, lean in. Again, absolutely riveting. That was, I have to say, more of a high-pitched snap than a bang, but every single shark in the study was recorded making those noises when handled. Further evidence that supports this being a type of communication includes the fact, 1, they did not make any noises while swimming freely or feeding, and 2, they made more noises in the first 10 seconds of being handled than in the following 10 seconds. So this chatter may be a distress response that, quote, may diminish over time as the sharks become accustomed to handling, end quote, from the study. So this could be a stress response. But how? Now, if you said it kind of sounds like 44 oval teeth chomping together, you may be right. Time to unpin those pins about the rig teeth and how rays may be making their own fuck-off declarations. From the study, quote, within the limits of the available data, the broadband frequency range and the short duration of the rig clicks suggest the involvement of teeth snapped during rapid mouth closure for sound production. However, additional investigations will be necessary to test this hypothesis, end quote. So that's right, folks. Not only has a new field of animal communication been born, but more studies on shark chatter is about to happen. Carolyn told IFL Science she hopes that the team's documentation might inspire others to start listening to sharks, as their sounds could reveal new insights into their ecology, their behavior, and ecological niches. Just as with whales, it might even turn out to be an important tool for conservation strategies. I, for one, cannot wait to know what they are saying. Something 400 million years old might have some good advice. After the break, we're taking a hop, skip, and jump from New Zealand, 1,600-ish miles north, to the islands of Fiji, where it's believed one of its residents took one hell of a longer trip to get there. Adventures await. Stay tuned.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay, courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I want you to drop whatever it is you're holding, to slam on your brakes and or walk away from the conversation you may be having right now, because nothing is as important or sexy as the photo I'm going to show you. Please, pick up your phone and tap on today's post over at the socials. After you swipe past the images of the New Zealand rig, brace yourself for the Fijian crested iguana. Yeah, just look at those gams. Look at said crest. Behold its green flamboyance. That is one pretty motherfucker. And we're going to learn a few fun facts about this iguana before diving into a new study that puts all these other facts to shame. It'll even put facts about other animals to shame, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This lanky, 30-inch long creature goes by the official name of Brachylophus, and out of all the 300 or so Fijian islands that exist, it's only found on 8 of them. And it's nowhere to be seen beyond them as well, anywhere in the world except Tonga, 487 nautical miles to the southeast. Only about 4,000 individuals exist, so if you happen to spot one, consider yourself lucky. For example, according to Steve Antsy of Ahura Resorts, there are currently only 15 iguanas left in the forest of Laiku and 6 at Malolo Resort. Your best chances of finding one may be over on the island of Yadua Taba, because the island is a National Trust of Fiji reserve and contains the only legally protected population. Thanks to our love of resorts, human expansion, and encroachment on their forest habitats, their numbers have been dwindling. And they've been dwindling so much so that they are now listed as critically endangered. To know more about them is power. And with that power comes conservation. There's only one problem, though. We have a lot of questions about our fabulous crested iguana, some as basic as, how in the fuck did you get here? In the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Where did you come from? For real. The Iguanidae family tree includes some 2,100 reptilian species, with all members of the iguana evolutionary family being found in the Americas. With one exception, the Fijian iguana, aka Brachylophus. The origins of our Fijian iguana are a mystery. Ain't nobody knows how they ended up in the middle of nowhere and who they evolved from. That is, until 5 minutes ago. Let's get into it. Simon Scarpetta, a herpetologist and paleontologist at the University of San Francisco and lead author of the paper we're eating right now, told ScienceNews.org to answer these questions, all his team had were a few theories to pick from, and all of them sound crazy as fuck. No, it's possible that a now extinct missing link ancestral population of iguanids lived around the Pacific Rim and somehow made their way to the middle of the Pacific by island hopping. But before they did that, they had to leave the Americas, probably via the Bering Land Bridge, and then moved on to Indonesia and Australia, then floated this way. But there's no evidence of any of this. Or maybe they left the Pacific coast of South America and came up through Antarctica. But again, ain't no bones to be found there. So, maybe, just maybe, some random species of iguana from the Americas made a beeline right here, straight to Fiji. This would be a colossal, seemingly improbable, one-way ticket. Well, with such a lack of physical evidence, there's really only one way to find out. And if you said, well, shit, we're going to have to collect like 4,000 genes and tissue samples from more than 200 iguanan species housed in museum collections around the world and give them a look, you're right. Scarpetta and his colleagues did just that and analyzed thousands of genetic points. So, what did they find? Drumroll, please. Thank you again in the back. Quote, as Scarpetta began comparing these data, one result stood out clearly. The Fijian iguanas are mostly related to the iguanas in the genus Dipsosaurus. And the most widespread of these is in North America. It's a North American desert iguana, Dipsosaurus dorsalis, nailed it, which is adapted to the searing heat of the deserts in the American Southwest and northern Mexico. End quote from the University of California, Berkeley press release to eurekaalert.org. Yeah, my crested business goose, the Fijian's closest relative is from the American Southwest and northern Mexico, an equally sexy son of a bitch called Dipsosaurus dorsalis, and you can take a look at one over at the socials. If you swapped the green for a rocky brown color, you can see the resemblance. Now, according to the team's clickety-clacks, 31 to 34 million years ago, Dipsosaurus made its way to Fiji, where it evolved into what it is today. So, now that we know who Brachylophus is related to, the question of how in the fuck just became even more intriguing. Now, this may sound hard to believe, but the team suggests they came in on a raft of vegetation. Stick with me. This has been witnessed before. According to the press release, iguanas have often been spotted rafting around the Caribbean on vegetation. And this is how, ages ago, iguanas evidently caught a 600-mile ride from Central America to colonize the Galapagos Islands. Surfing iguanas is a thing. And yes, riding away for 600 miles is impressive, but that ain't shit compared to what Brachylophus did millions of years ago. Sailing from northern Mexico to one of the islands of Fiji is a 5,000-mile or 8,047-kilometer trek. And honestly, if anyone is going to survive it, it's a desert iguana. Quote, you can imagine some kind of cyclone knocking over trees where there were a bunch of iguanas and maybe their eggs, and then they caught the ocean currents and rafted over. Iguanas are large and herbivorous and are used to long periods without food or water. And if the float sound consisted of uprooted trees, the raft itself would have provided food. End quote, Scarpetta said in the press release. So, it's possible. It's possible they just kicked back and relaxed, nibbling on their mode of transport comfortably under the scorching sun as the days went on. And speaking of days, you're probably wondering how long it would take to float casually at sea before hitting the goddamn Paradise Lotto. Well, great thoughts. The team wondered the same and came up with the answers that might be very doable for such a creature. Scarpetta told Isaac Schultz of Gizmodo, previous estimates for this trans-Pacific journey were between 4 to 12 months, though more recent simulations suggest a timeline of just 2.5 to 4 months. That is insane. But not as insane as this twist. Yeah, there's a twist. My friends, Brachylophus's ancestors were even luckier than you think. 35 million years ago, Fiji didn't exist. The islands rose from a volcanic eruption 34 million years ago. So this little bastard set sail at the right time, 31 to 34 million years ago, all to end up in the right place. Talk about being meant to be. We need to save this iguana at all costs. And thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, telling your friends about what sharks sound like. just even do the whole Old MacDonald song. Start with cows, move on to pigs, chickens, and then do the raise, do the sound. Don't even tell them why you're doing this. And then do the sharks. Then when they're like, are you okay? Then tell them about how iguanas from Fiji are actually from North America. And a floating thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.